Thank you, Mayor Ortega. Council members, the name is Bob Pegman. The address is on the record. And most Old Town business owners don't oppose development in Old Town. But when a development gets this close to the heart of a shopping area, where it can have a negative impact on the local businesses, that's where the problem starts. As a point of reference, when the canopy was built, because it had plenty of staging area, not one merchant complained about construction mitigation or construction adverse effect. So I want to put that into perspective. Specifically on First Avenue, they have a major parking issue right now. And for people who say, you know, it's all a bunch of hyperbole and exaggeration, the gravel lot today that the Artisan will be built on is being used for parking overflow. So on First Avenue, not only are most of the street spaces usually taken, there's major overflow. That lot, that gravel lot, is being used as an overflow lot for a nearby restaurant, a nearby bar who happens to support this. And at times there are 40, 50, 60, 70 or more cars parked there. That lot obviously goes away. And it's a private lot. It's not the developer's fault. It just goes away. That's just fact. But that's more reason why we are concerned about preserving as many of the street spaces as possible during the construction. Now, let me just put this on the projector here. This is an example of that lot, for example, that the Artisan will be built on. Cars are trying to make it to it, and they'd have to wait for space. Here's another example, just to show you how short the parking is in that area. Now, for a large construction like this, there are usually two categories of negative adverse effect on local businesses. One of it is that construction vehicles can park, and large crews of construction vehicles, up to 50 maybe, would park on the surrounding streets. And the other one is that the streets can be closed off by the city for public parking. The first piece of that has been addressed through a private agreement between the business owners and the developer. And there is a private agreement. John Berry said it's going to be a public record. I'm happy to report that this agreement has now been signed in a short 3 days by 43 local businesses. That's how concerned they are about this. But this agreement basically, all it does is that the developer commits that the construction vehicles will be parked off-site and not on specific streets and parking lots in the area. And by the way, the city could have easily entered into this agreement with the developer directly. They chose not to. As a last resort, we entered into the agreement. But there's still one key piece left that has to be addressed, and that is the city keeping the parking spaces open. Let me put this on the slide projector. 2 blocks west of that construction site, of the Artisan construction site, this is a similarly, maybe a larger size construction. The city has allowed all of the parking spaces, every single one of them, to be blocked off so the public can't park on it. They have construction material. And to me, this is picking winners and losers. The developer is the winner, obviously, in this case, because they have all this use of this space, the same parking spaces that these local merchants rely on, by the way, for their customers. We cannot allow this to happen on First Avenue. Now, there is a construction mitigation plan that's attached to the development agreement. But we need concrete language, because Brian Clough, he mentioned that this is flexibility. This is what flexibility looks like, by the way. This is the visual of flexibility. To guard against this, we need just a one-line language that says that the street spaces on and around the Artisan shall remain open to public use, except if there's a case of an emergency, and to me, emergency is a crane is falling, there's a sewer leakage, not an ongoing 3-year condition like this. Thank you.
Mayor, City Council, my name is Jimmy Erickson. I've been a custom jeweler in Old Town Scottsdale for 39 years. I've been in 4 locations. I was on Fifth Avenue, I was on Goldwater, and I was on Marshall Way. And I had to move from each location because there was no parking. No parking, no parking. 26 years ago, I bought the property right across the street because there would be parking there, and there has been. But now we're facing a problem again, there's going to be no parking. All the people on First Avenue, the 14 businesses, we're destination shops. We are not people who walk down the street and walk into our store. Never happened. In 26 years, I've never had one person ever walk into my store and say, "Hi, I was walking down the street. What do you do?" No. All the people that come in, they know what I want. They know what they do. This is the same for me. This is the same for Jim Sudolph's Ceramic Arts. This is the same for the other people on the block. We are destinations. And in order to be a destination shop, we must have parking. If we don't have parking, most of my ladies who come to me are 60, 70 years old. They're not going to park in underground parking. That's nuts. They want to park in front of our shops and walk in the door. We take care of them. They get in their car, and they drive home. And that's a big problem. Now, I've been doing this for a long time, and I plan to do it another 10 to 15 years. But in order to do it, I need to have people find a place to park. And this is a disaster parking situation. Now, they think it's going to be easy with underground parking. Most people don't like underground parking. I hate it myself. I don't want to park underground. What a horrible thing. Most ladies don't like underground parking. That's even worse. So no, it's not a good idea. And trying to talk to making this pedestrian walkway, that's crazy. The Scottsdale did this 30 years ago when they changed the location of Marshall Way. I was on the Marshall Way Retail Association at that time, and it was going to make it so much easier. We're going to have all the people from the Marshall Way Art walk to Main Street. You know what? It never happened. My window and my bench face the curved street. There's nobody ever walking it. That's just a goofy idea that somebody thought about years ago, and it didn't work. It didn't work then. It's not going to work now. You're going to put this building right across from not only my business, but my home. I built my home there. I've lived there for 14 years. And now I get to wake up every morning with all these people going in and out of the driveway? You've got to be kidding me. It should be, the entrance to the property, if you approve it, should be on Marshall Way. Definitely not First Avenue, because if you put it on First Avenue, you're going to kill all the businesses. You might as well just shoot us all now, because we're not going to have any businesses because there's not going to be a place to park. That's a big problem. So you got to stop this now before it gets started. Or otherwise, I'm out of business, Jim Sudolph's out of business, David Michael Miller's out of business, Valerie Ann's out of business. I could go on and list the number of people that are out of business, but it's just going to be the way it is. So you got to stop it. If you don't approve it, you approve John Barry. Okay, I know John Barry. Yeah, great. Going to build something great. But you can't ruin the people that have been there a long time. It's just not fair. Most of the people on our street have been there 10, 20, 30 years or more, and now it's going to be all dead. Why?
Thank you, Mr. Erickson. Appreciate it.
Okay.
My name is David Michael Miller. I own and operate an interior design studio on First Avenue at 7034 East First Avenue. The Artisan project will be immediately at my east property boundary and will be directly behind me across the alley. I have the distinct misfortune of being in this position. I'm going to put this on the screen if I can. So this building right here, this white streak, that's my building. It was designed by Wendell Burnett. It was completed in the year 2000. At the time, I built it to the maximum allowed height of 30 feet. I enjoy a second floor office that looks out over the roofs of the stores across the street on Indian School. With the Artisan in place, being 60 feet, out my back window, out my private office window, I'll be looking directly into somebody's living room. My building is 30 feet, the Artisan is 60 feet. I don't think that this bulk and mass and height belongs on First Avenue. Also, looking right next door to my building, you can see where I have my customer parking. It's a gray splotch there to the right of the white roof. So for the Artisan, I'm going to be right next door to all the ingress and egress of parking into the Artisan. According to the traffic study from the city, there are going to be 650 ins and outs into the parking a day. So my luxury home clients that I'm bringing to my office are going to be sitting in line waiting for people to go in and out of the Artisan. 650 moving cars a day right next door to me. That's bothersome. So the effect of the project to me is going to leave me in a canyon of building mass. And I think it's very unfortunate for the city, for First Avenue in general, to have to suffer this. I understand the building's promoted as being fantastic and, the belt buckle of the arts community. But I think this amount of mass and bulk does not belong on this street. In addition, when I was first presented this project by the developer's representatives, I was told that everyone up and down First Avenue, all my neighbors supported it unanimously, which I found hard to believe. They said, "We came to you last because we knew you were going to be the toughest sell." So at the time the project was presented, I thought this is a moving locomotive that I have no power in altering the speed of. But following that presentation, I went and I talked to all my neighbors, and none of my neighbors were for it. So there's something wrong with this community outreach problem that brings back information to council that everybody in the neighborhood is all gung-ho for this to land on First Avenue, when that is clearly not the case. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor Caputi, City Council members, my name is French Thompson. I live, my business is 7148 East Main Street, Scottsdale. I've got a little thing to put on the screen also. This is a simple sentence that we'd like to have added to this agreement. Very short little thing. But what it does is it says if we're going to close off any streets, public streets, citizen streets, streets we've all paid for, taxes, they're only given to the developer for an emergency, only for an emergency. As you saw in the photographs that Mr. Pegman put up here, the city has given away an entire block, an entire city block of public property to a private developer to put their construction materials on, to put their cranes. There's 4 restaurants right across the street from that all of their parking has been taken away from them on the street. That's my street. That's your street. The city's paid for it. The citizens have paid for that. This is just a simple sentence to be added to say if the city has to come along and close the street for any reason, it's going to be an honest-to-God emergency. You just don't give away public property to developers for their own private use. This has been going on for 2 years. I mean, it's literally, I can't even believe the city's doing this. And I hope the city looks into why this developer's been able to use that whole entire one city block for their construction material and do something about it and prevent this from happening in the future. This isn't the kind of thing that you do to your merchants. I mean, there should be good development that comes in. Artisan is a good example of that. They want to watch out for the businesses. They want to watch out for the merchants. They want to be a good citizen. They don't want to have a negative impact on our businesses. They would like our businesses to be there so that when they're open and they have residents and business there, that they can enjoy us. So we're a mutually beneficial situation. But if you're closing off streets that, by the way, it's probably been 5 years that I come up here and say, parking. I feel like walking up here one day and just say for 3 minutes, parking. But that 1 minute of silence was probably the same thing. So I just implore you to add this simple language to this agreement. If they need to close the street, it's a real emergency.
My name is Sonny Kirtley. I am here representing the COGS Coalition in Greater Scottsdale Board of Directors, and our address is on file. COGS supports the construction mitigation plan negotiated by the area merchants and owners with the John Berry and Artisan team. The inclusion of an emergency-only closure by the city is a critical amendment to that document. We particularly appreciate the respect the Artisan team has demonstrated toward the businesses and to understand the severe negative impact on a closed public street to the livelihood of those businesses. Looking ahead to the future, COGS will strongly support a City Council directive to staff to draft a city-wide construction mitigation plan. There are many, many cities that already have this as an example for them. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to talk about the mitigation plan. This is something that needs to be done in all of the areas. Matter of fact, all of Scottsdale. I have property that's in historic Old Town on Brown Avenue. We will be coming to you, I'm sure, down the road shortly to push forward a mitigation plan. Parking is key to survival of business owners. You cannot survive without parking. We already have a shortage of parking in the downtown. If construction vehicles take over an area, where are they going to park? How are the merchants going to succeed in their businesses? Because you're not getting in the customers that you have. If those of you were in the downtown during the season, you've noticed, and I've noticed even now, our season has run late. There are still people coming. There are still a lot of people on the street. One of the folks mentioned parking underground. Parking underground sounds great, but we have proof already. We can say, oh, Fashion Square has that. They're a whole different animal. We have at the Buckboard Trail parking lot, at the Parking Corral parking lot underground, and it's not used. It hasn't been used. It's been there for years. So we do support always a mitigation plan for each individual area and for parking off-site. We hope that the council takes this into consideration and even considers it for a public citywide ordinance, because it has to, or mitigation plan of some time. We have to protect what we have.